and that is how you change your motor on your VRX Octane. And that is ready to go play. Hi guys, it's Brett here from Hearns Hobbies, and today I'd like to talk to you about how to change your motor in your Octane. Now these are a basic 540 motor, so they are prone to wearing out and failing, and it's just a bit of a ritual bit of maintenance getting the motor in and out for basic service anyway. So I thought I'd do a little video and talk and walk you through it. So this one here, you can see it's had plenty of use, it's plenty of muddy. It's apart from that though, it's in pretty good shape. I've already got the battery out of it, and I believe looking at the motor that it's been changed before. So I'm going to go ahead and get the motor out. So let's have a look. First thing I'm going to do is get out my 9 steps essential toolkit here, and that contains most of the tools that we'll need, all the tools that we'll need for this, and most of the tools that you need to do a thorough rebuild on the complete car. So I'm going to start by getting out the 2mm Allen key, and that is by far the most popular tool in any of these cars. Now nothing should be excessively tight, nor should it be loose or stripped. So I like to go around and crack all the screws nice and evenly, just a turn or two to get everything started, and then we'll work our way out. You can see here that I'm actually working over a pit mat, which is a really good idea. And it actually saves stuff from the screws if I do happen to drop something from hopefully bouncing away if you're working over tile or a hard surface. So get these screws out. It's handy to keep them in a way that, because they can sometimes be different lengths, so you know exactly where they come out of. And you can see so far already we've got a screw here of 2 different lengths, so I'll be sure to make note of which one goes exactly where back in. These are the steering post screws. Now what I'm undoing here is undoing the top deck, and that's going to allow me to get at the top gearbox case of this car. And it's a very important piece of the car architecture and the chassis design. As I've undone that last screw, you can see here the whole part has lifted away. Now these ones are quite easy in that there's no hard connections to the motor, i.e. it's not soldered. They do have these bullet plugs, so I'm just going to go ahead and unplug those. I'm not going to pull it by the wire, but by the crimp connection itself. If I was just to pull either end of the wire, I could in fact pull that out of the crimp connection. So I'm just going to fold this one here out the way, and you can see here already that I've got much more access to the motor and the top of the gearbox case. So the next one I'm going to do is take off the top gearbox case. Again, the same thing. I'm going to work around, back them all off. Nothing needs to be excessively tight on these cars. And these toolkits, these hex drivers, make a world of difference. To do this kind of repair with an L-shaped Allen key, which is effectively what tool you could use, would just make it awkward, wouldn't be anywhere near as fast, and you run the potential to damage the head of your screws because you can't get a nice positive drive on them. So a little toolkit like this is a really good investment. Okay, so I've got our 5th screw out here. Now I've left them all in the case. I'm going to go ahead and slop that out of the way. The reason I've kept the screws within the case is so that I know exactly where they go back into. I'm just going to sit that aside. And this should now allow me to get the motor out. And that is as simple as getting the motor out. Now this car here does have a fixed motor plate, and a fixed motor plate does in fact set the gear mesh for us. Now gear mesh is important to keep the car running efficiently, quietly, and ensuring that we've got not in excessive drag across the drivetrain, or not too much clearance to in fact cause the stripping of the spur gear, which is the plastic gear in there. So I'm going to go ahead now and loosen the screws for the motor case. Okay, now that's loose. Now that like I said, they are preset screws, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to get our new motor, which is an OEM VRX motor here, which is a very good replacement part, cost effective, quite robust. Like I said, they do wear, it is part of wear and tear on the car. They will wear out and they will fail, but for the point of this exercise, we're going to put a new one in. You can see here. Now this one does in fact come pre-lubed, I can see here, so there's no need to go ahead and oil it, but as periodic maintenance I would do that. So I'm going to line up the screws on the motor. It's going to sit something like that. I'm just having a look at the screws and the motor mount. Okay, I can go ahead and take the rest of the motor mount off. Now we've got 2.5 mil headed screws. We'll unwind these. Now these screw up into the motor. Doing it over the top of the car there to really show you. Okay, so take the motor out of the way, and then I'll offer up the new motor with the same bolt pattern, commonly referred to as a Mabuchi style motor, and that is just a brand of a sealed can, brushed kind of DC motor. And DC refers to the fact of the power source or the switching of the motor, as opposed to another common kind of motor that's becoming more and more common, which is brushless. But we'll concentrate on this one for now. It's got to line these screws up like so. A little bit finicky to do it. Sorry guys, just lining that up. And on it goes. And it is up firm but not too tight. No need to wrench on it. It's only going up into plastic. We run the risk of deforming and cracking the plastic motor plate. So I'm just going to offer that up again and slide that back into the same cassette. Make sure that we're on the right path. Yep, so everything's looking good. It's going to fit in there nicely. Next thing to do is to put the pinion gear on. And that is this little brass or metal gear that goes on the motor shaft. And again, they use a nice big 2mm Allen key. I'll sit that to the side and offer up the pinion to the new one. Now the motor does in fact have flats on it, a flat surface, and that's where you want to do your grub screw up. So I'm going to offer that up. I'm going to get the spacing about the same, which was the end of the shaft, like so. Make sure that it is on the flat, and then we're going to end up doing it up. Just going to double check, and then we're going to give that one a bit of an extra torque, like so. Again, there's no need to swing off it, but does need to be firm. Okay, I'm going to go ahead now and slide the motor back into the motor mount assembly. Now that I can see here that I do in fact need to just adjust this wire tag down a bit so it does clear the steering post. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and slide that in. Now I can see here from when I've lined the gear up that I have in fact, the pinion is sitting further forward than the spur gear. I don't know if we can see that. There's like a millimetre or two where the pinion can come back and give more purchase on the gear itself. So I'm just going to spin that over and readjust that while I'm here. Again, my 2mm Allen key, straight in there. Can do it while the motor's in situ. Loosen it off, wind it back in. There we go. Now we can see there that we've got 100% gear mesh and everything's lined up. Fantastic. Now because it's all preset and pre-aligned, there's not much of a gear mesh to check, but you can in fact make sure that the spur gear is in all the way in the bearing holder. Put your thumb on there and you should feel the tiniest bit of play. That's what we call backlash. I'm going to go ahead now and just assemble the car in the same way that we took it apart. You can see here I've got my motor case screws. Again, I'm not just going to tighten one down, but I'm going to work my way around in a bit of a cross pattern or a circle. Get them all pulled down nice and evenly to ensure that the gear case is sitting correct. Get all the screws started and set in. Screw number 4 coming in. Now as it starts to pull down, I'm just going to lift the car up to ensure that the gear case has in fact seated properly onto the lower half of the case, to ensure that we have got correct adjustment and sealing of the gearbox case, which in this case we have. There we go. And you can expect a bit of noise. I mean, it is gear drive. Now I can go ahead now and do the final tightening. Again, you can just see I'm just using my 2 fingers, my thumb and my forefinger on the hex driver. That's ensuring that I don't over tighten or strip the screws. Fantastic. Now we can put the top deck back on. Ensure that the wires are safe and out of the way and everything lines back up, which in fact it is. Getting these screws on. Just making sure now that it's all setting nicely, which it is, so I can go ahead and reassemble it. So I did take these front screws out last, so I'm going to go ahead and put these in first. Again, not tightening one screw down all the way, yet doing it across the whole frame of the top deck and getting it nice and even and lined up and straight. Steering post screws. Going in very nicely. For a ready to run car, they are really well made and the quality is really good of the plastics and the materials. Great value for money. And the best part about it is you can in fact carry out repairs and work on them yourself, and that for a lot of people, me included, is the best part of their hobby. Okay, so that's all on and lined up. Again, I'm just going to work my way around the screws, tighten them all up nice and evenly. Again, just with the thumb and forefinger on the hex wrench, winding it all down. Getting it all pulled down nicely. There we go. Now, the last step that we made was getting the wire motors plugged in. Now these one being a DC motor can go either way, so backwards is not really a problem. We can swap that over. So I'm just going to plug that in halfway to ensure that I can unplug it again, just as a bit of a test plug. Now the next step for me is to put the battery in and to give it a check. Okay, I'm back. So here we've got the fully freshly charged battery. I'm gonna go ahead and slip that in now and check for correct operation and rotation of the motor. Otherwise we can in fact change the direction by the plugs on the motor. As simple and as straightforward as that, because some motors are different to others. Go ahead. These ones here, I like to actually put the battery plug in here, make it nice and secure. Keeps it out of the way, keeps it flopping around. There we go. I'm gonna go ahead and plug this in. Here we go. Okay, everything is nice and secure, nice and neat. I can actually put this strap over here. Keep it all in. So there we have our motor in. So first thing I'm going to do is turn on the transmitter. Then I'm going to turn the car on. I'm going to hold it up and out of the way, and I'm just going to gently apply the throttle. Obviously make sure your hands and everything are clear. That's going forward, and that's going backwards. So we have in fact got the motor wires the right way. So I'm going to turn that off again. I'm just going to ensure that these are plugged in home all the way. That go click click sort of thing. This one too, click it all the way in, make sure it's nice and firm and out of the way. Now these are pretty neat and tidy in that they can tuck down here out of the way, not causing a hassle. We'll power it up again. We'll ensure for no abnormal noises and smooth running, and I'm sure you will hear the whirring and the gears, but let's have a listen. Perfect. I'm sure it sounds loud on camera, but that is running smooth and silky. Turn that off, and that is ready to go play. And that is how you change your motor on your VRX Octane. Thanks for watching.